Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. And taking a look at a whole bunch of weather systems that are going on. There's a lot going on actually. Currently at this time, we got tropical storm. I believe it is called Nicholas. They called it. Yeah, tropical storm Nicholas. That is making its landfall. It looks like right on the Gulf Coast of Texas. So there is tropical storm force warnings along the coast here. It seems like the winds aren't amazingly high. We're looking at 60-mile-an-hour wind speeds because it is only a tropical storm force, strength. It is moving about 5 miles an hour, so that's kind of a reminder that it's going to go over your location and it's going to last for a little while just because it's not moving very, very slow, or it's not moving very quickly. It's over 1,000 and in its strength. We're looking at 1,000 pressure, 1,001 millibar pressure. So I mean, it's on the higher end. You know what I mean? So it is a tropical storm force strength, which is still going to create a lot of high surf and a lot of riptide problems and coastal problems that are on the coast. But as far as that, it's going to be a lot of rain, a little bit of winds, and eventually will move out of your area into a tropical depression as it curves and heads towards the east. Then we got a couple of other tropical systems that are forming. This one is coming from the Atlantic over here, has an 80% chance of tropical storm formation over the next 5 days. That's what they are looking at. 30% chance of formation in the next 48 hours. So that's why this is red. It isn't zero. And it looks like it is coming towards the Bahamas, so it might end up in our area once it does actually form within the next 5 days. So that's something to be aware of. The next thing that's going on is a lot of convection outlooks and high convection up here in the Midwest and the Northeast and the northern end of the country. We have a lot of fronts that are coming through, a lot of cold fronts and warm fronts that are blowing through, and a high trough system that is going to come through here. And because of where the jet is at, because the jet stream is up in this area right now, and Tuesday, especially by the evening, it's supposed to be. It was indicated that the jet is going to strengthen a little bit. It's going to intensify in its strength a little bit. That's going to make weather systems a little bit of a problem. Okay, because when that does happen, that means that these weather systems are going to drag across. They're going to intensify because it's going to lower the atmosphere's stability a little bit, and then you're going to have some severe weather cranking out because of that. So a cold front is supposed to move in behind these storms as well as a warm front ahead of the line, and that is kind of not a good thing because anytime that you have warmth and you have moisture, which the dew points in these areas are already going to be set to over 60s. So you have the moisture, you have the heat, and that's a breeding ground for instability for storms. So anytime that you have heat and moisture lifting up in the atmosphere, you're getting lower pressure, and that's going to roll out some severe storms. So that's what we're looking at in these areas, and I'm going to go over what we're looking at as far as storm threats. So today, this is, oh, I'm sorry, that isn't today. Let me go to day one. This is day one today. All right, so this is our categorical look for today, going across Wisconsin, Minnesota, parts of Iowa, right here in northern Iowa, going across the Great Lakes region, Michigan, and then eventually into the Northeast here in southern New York and northern Pennsylvania, as well as these coastal regions right here in New England. That's kind of what we're looking at, but you can see the tornado risk. The tornado risk isn't very high. It's not a very large area. It's just that kind of cornered area between Iowa, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. But look at the wind. I mean, we're looking at high winds all the way across this convection outlook, all the way across. And then hail probability. That's another worry because look at that big, large area. We're getting 15% hail probabilities here, 15% here, 5% all in the red. So these storms are building with higher winds aloft, and they're building with the cold fronts and the warm front. They're ahead of it and behind it there. That's going on. You're getting the heat, you're getting the moisture, and it seems like things are not going to essentially chill out until after the front has passed. And it seems like those storms are going to be kind of just building and strengthening ahead of it, and that's going to be when the jet is beginning to strengthen a little bit on Tuesday evening into Tuesday night. And it should be moving across the Great Lakes region by then, and in the overnight periods in these regions here. So with this in mind, all the atmospherics that the National Weather Service is identifying in this, they said that there is still some inconsistencies, or where the probabilities are low on exactly how, it's going to happen verbatim. So that means they're saying that all severe hazards are possible, but they don't know exactly how possible because some of the probabilities in the models are still unanticipated. So we're going to take a look at some things. This is tomorrow's outlook for day 2, and you can see that marginal area with that slight risk over Michigan and the Great Lakes region. And half of this is Canada too. Canada in Ontario going up into eventually Quebec and Montreal region up here. Excuse me. And that's what we're looking at for tomorrow. And you can see that tornado risk seems to expand quite a bit. So, and that is going to be the cold front pushing behind this. The warm front's already kind of, going to be moving through this area ahead of the line, and that's and this is the day that the strengthening in the jet is going to be happening. So that jet is going to strengthen, going into Tuesday into the afternoon and overnight periods, and that's going to strengthen the possibility of these storms to roll out some severe hazards. So this is only a 2% risk of the tornado risk, but it doesn't mean that it can't happen. It could drop, 1 or 2 here. And these usually are brief spin-up tornadoes, but you could have some stronger ones in here that would be possible. So make sure you're paying attention to your weather service, your local weather service, and keep your phones on for your weather alerts and things like that, just in the event that you have something severe in your area happen. Even without the tornado threat, not talking even about the tornado threat, look at the wind threat that's going pretty much all the way from the Midwest all the way up to the Northeast and over the Great Lakes region. Especially over here, in the Illinois, a little bit of Ohio and Indiana, Illinois, and more than half of Michigan right there. And that is all higher wind, 15% of chance of higher wind probabilities. So even without any tornado threat, you're still getting a severe damaging wind threat that's in this. And then the hail probabilities, 5% across the board for possible hail. And I mean, we're looking at, with this kind of hail and these kind of indications from the National Weather Service, we're probably talking about hail anywhere from about the size of a dime to maybe up to 2 inches. You know what I mean? Which can be very, very damaging. And it won't be all throughout. It would be in individual segments or individual places at different times where the atmosphere is just right for it. And then going into day 3, then you can see this rip right across here of that convection that is moving out to the Atlantic, but this is the final day of that weather event. So this one they're probably going to still work on because this is 3 days out. So the NAM can anticipate that the NAM model can anticipate the forecast that this is going to be a hazardous day, but it won't tell you specifically what the details are because we're still a little bit a ways out. 3 days out, it's there's a lot of there's a lack of anticipation of probabilities. All right, so right now our atmospherics, we're going to check those out. That's for day 2. Boy, oh boy, you can see on that radar right there that tropical depression. That is big. All right, so as this low pressure system moves in, and this is the front that's going to be moving, this warm front's going to stretch, and that jet is going to intensify on Tuesday, making this a hazardous day for severe weather possibilities. Alright, our temperatures are still kind of on the cooler side up in the Northeast, still looking at 70s here in the Midwest, and especially from the daytime heating, when it is clear out, is not going to help the severe probabilities there. It's going to cause an influx of instability in this area as soon as those storms start rolling in there. Look at this, dew points already at 60s, and anywhere from the high 50s to mid 60s. So that means this is a wet sector right here. It is already pretty damp up there, even up into Pennsylvania and New York, still getting high 50s and 60s in dew points. So that's gonna aid in that instability to make the weather a little bit more unstable. Surface CAPE is sitting at 1,000, and this is just a general look at surface CAPE. We can look at it in more detail through the models. But that's unstable right there. That's enough instability to roll out some severe weather. Bulk shear 50, 60 knots. So the wind is already present in this area, which you have seen from my radar model. All these purple streaks everywhere. So we're getting significant wind around that low pressure system as it moves through the Midwest. Alright, so that is definitely prevalent and possible. That we're getting those kinds of wind levels. Surface vortice isn't really there, getting very, very, very tiny low indices up here. Still starting to, now we're starting to see a little bit of supercell development that's up here. This is supercell composite. Not a whole lot, but there is a little bit of some possible chance of supercell development up there. Tornado parameter is virtually not there yet, but this may increase over the next couple days, over tonight and over tomorrow during the afternoon, so we can come back and check on that as well. But it's very, very, very low right now. But that might change once these storms run through. Helicity levels, this is kind of what tells me here, you know what I mean, that the energy is just not there yet. But again, this could change. We're getting a little bit of helicity right there. Not a whole lot, but watch these storms run through and then it starts to build. Now you're seeing that LCL that is pretty much marking this entire area where those storms are going to be prevalent, where you're getting that lifting condensation height of 500 in most of these areas except for around here, 750. So we're getting a low lifting condensation level, and that's pretty much marking even down here near the tropical storm. Then you can see where it's 500, 750s, that's low lifting condensation level. So that's another accoutrement in the soup mix, you know, to make an unstable environment for storms to roll out and intensify. Okay, so looking at the HRR model, this is current time right now on the 13th. We're looking at the 13Z hour. So let's kind of go through the motions here and see how these storms kind of roll out here. And the only thing that's already kind of worrisome to me is that some of these cells are kind of isolated, and they're real spotty. They're like little spots of dark red, and they're little isolated cells. And that's usually when you get the highest probability for these tornado threats. Alright, so let's take a look here. It seems like it's getting together, and it looks to me, just by the structure, that these are kind of disorganized, and then it's almost like they're, you know, these storms are trying to get organized. Now I'm seeing some bowing segments in here, as well as a little bit of notching right here. And that could be a worry. That could be, you know, that could be something that could be severe in these areas. Anytime you're getting these bowing segments right here, and they're real tight, and you don't see a lot of that fluffy blue in front of it, that means that you're going to have some damaging winds ahead of this. It's going to roll out, and it's going to have some very high winds to it that could damage property, cause injury, and definitely take out some power as well. And thunder and lightning will be attributed with that, and there could be some hail embedded in that as well. So that is something that you might have to worry about in these areas. Let's look at the atmosphere just ahead of that. Alright, so it seems like, by the way that this looks, it seems like it's going to hold out in the Midwest a little bit because of some leftover calving. That's what it looks like. And then once it gets into the Great Lakes region, okay, and that's the last frame for the HRR model. Let's go back up to the top here. We'll look at NAM, because NAM will forecast it a little bit better. Excuse me, guys, sorry. Alright, so that's where you're getting that organization that it's trying to get. It seems like I had a leftover cap there for a little bit. It moves into Ontario. And then starts this. That's what I was afraid of. So it's going to start this big long tail that's going to form a line of storms. You see how thin and draw that is? And how straight that is? That indicates two things. It indicates high winds ahead of this whole entire line. So high and damaging winds. It also indicates some supercell development that might be just along this entire line, which could roll out a couple of tornadoes anywhere pretty much along this line if it intensifies that way. Now NAM probably has this a little fuzzier than it will be on the event, but you can see what I'm talking about. It starts to get a little bit more isolated. There could be embedded cells in here anywhere pretty much along this line. I would say from about here south. I mean, like, there's a little red spot right there. That's a little worrisome because that could be a supercell. It says marginal severe, so that looks like it might relatively be subsevere. You got another big red spot up here in northern New York. And NAM is saying that is going to be a tornado risk, which it could be. It'll look a little bit worse on the NAM because it's a forecast model instead of more of a live data model. That's why usually I use the high resolution model, because it's better and more accurate for real-time data to find out what is going on within the next 12 hours or now. And NAM isn't as good at doing that, but it's better for forecasting. So it looks like there's still a little bit of a cap. Cap is broken a little bit. LCL is really low, and the wind field more or less stable. A lot of moisture that's going up into the atmosphere though, and it says it's a low end tornado threat, and that is in northern New York as this pushes out. Then you got a rising system. It looks like it's getting caught into the jet as it lifts. And then you got some cells that are building just along the northern Pennsylvania line, which will create, cap is broken here, tightens up, and then there's a lot of moisture that's at mid-level, upper level, going into the atmosphere, and LCL is very low. And that was a pretty stable wind field as well. Now, okay, so see here you're getting these little spotty storms here, these little isolated cells that are popping up, and there could be some damaging storms that are in there. Anywhere you look, there's a lot of moisture that's lifting. All these little individual cells. This is usually where you get your tornadoes that are embedded into the storm, is in these little individual cells, these isolated cells, and they start getting rotating from the winds. The winds aloft that are kind of spinning it up, and they get these thunderstorms rotating, causing a supercell, and that's usually where you have your tornado threats, is in these little spots where it's red, and these could be supercells embedded in the storm. And some supercells drop tornadoes, some don't. It's all a matter of chance, but you know, that's something to be aware of. Alright, so taking a look at that, that's you know, at least we know kind of what is the deal with this. Let me go somewhere right here in the middle, and I want to look at some severe weather data as well. We're going to look at, let's look at surface-based CAPE. Alright, so surface-based CAPE, you see these orange areas where we're getting unstable air, unstable atmosphere. This is lower CAPE level, or I mean, well, higher end anyways. Look at some of these indices. Look at 3,000, 2,000 joules of CAPE. I mean, these are higher indices of CAPE where we're looking at, look at 3,000s in these deeper red areas. Down here, 3,000s along the eastern coast, all the way up into New York, where we're looking at about 2,000 joules of CAPE. And even in the gray shaded areas, and this is through the weather event today, I believe. Oh, I'm sorry, the 15th, 2 days from now. Let's see how this moves. As let's go to today, and then let's see how it develops. So you're already seeing that thousands, you know what I mean, of CAPE going through the severe weather event today. You can see those lower, those higher indices of CAPE right here, where we're already getting 2,000s up here in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and then CAPE actually increases in instability. So you're seeing that instability grow, mostly from probably, well, accompanied with the jet and the daytime heating. There is heavier winds here already. And then you can see how that unstable CAPE there just kind of moves along with the system. And now we are in tomorrow. But these gray shaded areas, this is 1,000 CAPE. This is 1,000 joules everywhere we're looking at. It's still pretty unstable. It's more than enough for, wow, look at that. Okay, so the 14th 12Z hour and the very next frame, which is 12 hours in between each other, and that happens. Just 1,000 CAPE, not too bad, you know what I mean? Still some instability in here, but then just, pwah, look at that. That just pops right up, and that's all 2,000 to 3,000 joules of CAPE everywhere along these oranges right here. That's a lot of instability in the atmosphere right there, and then it just grows. Now you can see where that front is going to be at. You see that curling, that's right here, and that front is going to be pushing this along to the east, well, the southeast, really, in that's the direction it's going to be pushing along, and that's going to be that cold front that's pushing this and moving it along the jet. And even in here, we're looking at, I mean, higher end at 3,000 in CAPE here, so a lot of instability to be had here. And then it just pushes it along and eventually shoves it out, but still we're getting higher indices of CAPE that are high enough for severe weather to roll out, 1,000, 2,000. And then eventually, it looks like later on in the 15th, still getting that leftover. We're here in southern New York and New England area, is still getting those higher indices of CAPE that's just kind of left over there. It seems like it's just kind of sitting there, doesn't really know what to do. And then we have another plume it looks like it's trying to develop around here. Yep, there it is. Increasing CAPE right there. And that goes into the next couple of days here that they're looking at, which still has a lot of miss probability here. We're just kind of still looking at that system, trying to figure out what it's going to do. So that gives you a little bit idea on what CAPE is doing. Let's look at significant tornado parameter. Alright, let's see how the significant tornado parameter continues along. You can see a little bit of those right there. Not a whole lot though. You know, this is 0.6. That's not a whole lot. Now we're looking up near 1 in northern Pennsylvania. It's not high, but it isn't 0. Still in these darker shaded areas, getting around 1. This is going into tomorrow now. So the tornado parameter doesn't look like it's very high. Ooh, getting a little spike there over Lake Superior going into Michigan. And then over Michigan, we're at 2.4. So the way the significant tornado parameter usually works is that if we're getting indices over 1, then there's a higher probability that tornadoes may develop. It means that the atmosphere is going to be supportive for tornadogenesis, mesocyclones to form in these areas, given the supercell development that will be available in that area, as well as the helicity and the energy available to it. But if it's getting indices over 2, over Michigan in these areas, then threats for some tornadogenesis may be very possible here. And then it moves up into, it's moving up, this is indices over 3 right here, stretching into northern New York at 1 as it moves up into Ontario, 2.7. And it looks like around northern New York, somewhere around Watertown, it looks like we're getting indices of 2. As it moves along, still getting indices of 2 through New York, and then finally dissipates. A little plume over, little spike in it over New England here, where we're getting indices over 1. This is the 15th into the 16th, so that would be the overnight periods. And then at the end of this model, going into the day 3 for right now, it looks like, it's showing us a little bit more tornado parameter. Look at that. Wow. Big spike in tornado parameter over Minnesota going into Wisconsin. And that spike grows to 3.6. And that is on the 17th, on the overnight period from the 16th to the 17th. That's going to be building up. That's as far as the NAM can see. So this may not be exactly accurate, but this is the possibility going that far ahead. That's why I kind of use the NAM more to look at severe potential and forecasts. Alright, so supercell composite. Let's look at how possible supercells are going to be through this weather event, just to make sure that we're understanding that a little bit. Alright, so you're definitely seeing these higher indices of supercell composite that are going to be forming here. Yeah. But you can definitely see that curve that's in here, and that is the cold front that's pushing this along. So you can see where that front is without actually seeing the front. And then so in the spike that we saw in tornado parameter, this is our supercell composite looking at, measured about 12. So that's what I was saying, these supercells are very possible to develop in this area over Michigan. And so tornadoes are entirely possible over Michigan during this time. This is the 14th at the 15Z hour. So any day or any time during the day on the 14th, if you live in Michigan, the previous frame, let me see here, was, so I would say the afternoon, late morning to afternoon. You know what I mean? You need to start paying attention if you live in Michigan. Pay attention to your local weather service. Keep your alerts on your phone and everything, so you can get your warnings. Have a plan in place to keep your family safe and your property and things like that. I mean, look at that spike. Look at this. This is already up in the 20s for supercell composite, for supercell development possibilities. As it moves up into Ontario, and there's just possibility for development all along this. Now, I don't want to scare anybody. I'm not trying to freak anybody out. I mean, this doesn't mean that you're going to have, you know, just supercells just popping up everywhere and developing it all over the place. This is merely showing you the possibility of supercell development in these areas. So the chance that supercells could develop, which a supercell is, all it is a rotating thunderstorm. And so, you know, when thunderstorms get crosswinds from different directions, then, you know, they start rotating, and to form tornadoes, if the atmospherics are right, they get rotating and then forms a mesocyclone, and sometimes they drop tornadoes. If the pressure is right, if all the, what's the word I used, all the accoutrement in the mixture and ingredients to make a tornado is within those ranges, as far as the atmosphere, then yes, they can drop some tornadoes. We're going to look at the lapse rates here, because I read from the National Weather Service that the low-level, they were going to have poor low-level lapse rates here, so I'm just taking a look real quick. Yeah, so you can kind of see the, you know, the kind of frame and structure of the jet as where it's at. So going into tomorrow, then you can see that strengthening of the jet that I was talking about. That's out in the Midwest, and the lapse rates are seen kind of on a wider scale, on a larger scale. So that strengthening and that instability kind of shifts over as it goes. Yeah, and you can see that just kind of moving to the southeast as it goes along. These lapse rates are just kind of moving out there. Alright, so yeah, it's entirely possible for these severe weather events to really roll out with these lower lapse rates, just poor lapse rates at low level. I mean, we're getting 9.1. Yeah, so I mean, this is something that you know, we just have to be weather aware about for the next about 2 or 3 days, I would say. Pay attention to your definitely pay attention to your local weather service, and definitely pay attention. Look, we already have a severe thunderstorm warning out. That's over Michigan, over Lake Superior right now, moving into Michigan. So that's starting early on as this low pressure system kind of elevates, and then this cold front is just, you know, going to kind of, it looks like it's just pushing along. As this all forms up, you got another cold front here with this warm front that's going to be dipping into it as well, so it's going to cause some heating ahead. Alright, so let's take a look here. Yeah, so they got this squared out right here. This is the high def radar, but let's look at the classic radar, see if we can see it in a little bit more detail. Yeah, there we go. So there we go. So you can already see that like this segment is just starting to bow a little bit. So if it starts to bow like that, this is all rain, all this green here, rain, winds, things like that the radar is picking up. But in these red segments, if they bow a little bit, you're going to get very heavy winds ahead of that. It doesn't look like it's a lot of bowing right now, but there is definitely very heavy torrential rainfall in there, as well as lightning. So thunder and lightning attributed with this as well. So definitely be on your game with your lightning safety. Torrential rainfall, and this is pretty tight, so I think that there's probably going to be some winds with this as well that's going to come with this storm. So make sure you secure any of your items and things outside. And then it's dragging all the rest of this along, and this is the system that we have to worry about that's going to be moving in. This is the one that's going to be unstable once it was, because right now it's held by a cap. That's the thing. It's not as wet and moist and unstable out here, but once it moves into these areas, then it's getting into that unstable atmosphere, and that's what's going to really roll it out to become severe. So at those severe levels. So that is something that if you are in these areas up here in the Great Lakes region, in the Midwest, or in the Northeast, I would say tonight, tomorrow, and day 3, Definitely be weather aware. Just pay attention and make sure that you know what's going on from your local weather service so that you can keep your family safe and everything over the next couple days. All right, because it is going to be a little bit it's going to be a little bit rocky. A lot of rain to be had, a lot of some severe potential over the next few days. And I hope that there is no tornadoes. I mean, zero. You know what I mean? If we can just live with severe thunderstorms, or just really bad thunderstorms, not even severe thunderstorms. I want to keep it. Let's keep it minimal. But all joking aside, severe thunderstorm warnings. This is a marine warning. Excuse me. So it's over Lake Superior. Wind gusts to 40 knots and small hail. So that is the threats with that as well. Wind gusts up to 40 knots, especially over the water, that's not a good thing. You know, because that can cause a lot of high surf, a lot of riptides, a lot of things like that. You don't want to be on the water when that's going on. But just the fact that that's happening there, once this moves into the land, that means that there's going to be a damaging wind threat that's attributed with that. So you got to be ready for that. All right, but with severe thunderstorms, I would treat them just as bad as tornado warnings. And the only reason I say that is because you don't need a tornado to have damage or to have injuries or something like that. All you need is really high winds. There's lightning and there's thunder in there. There's hail that's attributed with that. A lot of injuries can come from that, from just that alone. And even though we don't have a tornado on the ground with a severe thunderstorm warning, it can be just as dangerous. So if you get if you do get an alert for a severe thunderstorm warning, make sure that your kids and your family is inside and secured someplace safe. Just, to make sure that there's no debris flying through your window or anything like that, because there will be heavier winds with that as well. Things blow around, things knock down, trees come down, shingles off of roofs, and siding can come off. I mean, even without a tornado, it can do a lot of damage. So just make sure that you have your family safe if you do get a severe thunderstorm warning. That's all that we're kind of worried about here. So anyways, through tonight and the next couple of days, I wish you all luck, and I hope that everybody stays safe. And thank you for watching, and I'll update you on further updates as we go along. Have a good one.